Hey everyone, I am here today with a review of the Blick Studio brush markers. Now, as some of you may know, there is a shortage of Copic markers right now, and I've been wanting to start a collection for a while. I've been waiting since last December, haven't been able to get my hands on any, so I started looking for alternatives. I came across these, I bought some, and I wanted to go ahead and give you guys a review of these just in case you're in the same predicament as I am. Now, some things to know about these markers: you can buy them at Blick in store or online. The price tag is awesome at $2.69 a marker. They also offer bulk discounts if you are an instructor or a teacher. There are all different kinds of sets: 6, 12, 24, 48, 96, which is the full set of 95 colors, and one colorless blender. The only problem, 24 of those are gray, so that's something to keep in mind. These are not refillable, another problem, but I will address that later on. You cannot change or replace the nibs. Again, I will address that later on. And these can be used with other alcohol markers, all other alcohol markers, just like any other ones. And of course, they do smell. They're pretty potent, but they're alcohol markers. They're going to, if you're sensitive to smells, this may be something that you want to skip out on. But just for reference, I do suffer from migraines. I have since I was very young, about 7 years old, and these don't bother me at all. So that's something to think about. Now, these came to me packaged in this clear plastic case, and inside this clear plastic case are two hard plastic cases of 24 markers. I bought the set of 48. If you go up to the 96 set, then you're going to go ahead and get 4 cases of all the markers. So you'll get 4 of these hard plastic cases that you can store your markers in. Now, these are awesome. They have lids on them, and they also have little spaces in the bottom that make sure that the marker is stored properly. It stores right side up, and it just keeps it nice and secure in there so they're not wobbling around and moving. So these are nice little cases. You can pop the lids off, and then there you've got your 2 sets. Now, these sets did not come like this. I've already taken all my markers out and arranged them in numerical order, and that just helps me to pick out the colors I need right as I go along coloring. Now, this is a hexagon shaped barrel. I colored with an hour for it, and it did not cramp up my hand at all, so that's a good thing. And these are also labeled on both ends. Not only do they have the number, they have the coordinating color, and then the cap is also color coordinated, so you can just look with your eyes if you're a visual person like I am and just pick up a color that you want. Now, here's the brush end. These are dual ended, and this is the brush end. It's a very nice brush end. And then this is the chisel end. These caps do have little pockets in them, I guess you could say, that just helps snapping off the end, because these caps do fit nice and snug, which you want them to. There you could see both ends of the markers, and also both of these caps stand up, so if you're a video maker like I am, that's a big plus to me. There's the front and back of the marker. The back of the marker is also labeled with the name. There's the brush tip, and there's a closer look at that chisel tip. That's not something I'm going to use a whole lot, but it is a nice chisel tip. And there is also both ends of the marker off and standing up nicely. Here's a look at how flexible that brush nib is. It's really nice, but it holds up really well also. Now, the real test is, how do these color, right? Well, here's the brush end, and this is the ultramarine color that I'm using. And I'm just going to make some nice lines. You can see the color goes down pretty solid on your first stroke. And then you can also get some nice flicks with your wrist and some nice widths. There is that chisel end. Again, you get a really nice even coat of color with one layer. Of course, you're probably going to be layering colors if you are using alcohol markers. So, not something to be too worried about, but it is awesome that if you only need one coat, these go on very nicely in just one coat. And there you can see both caps just snap right back on in place, and you get a nice little closer look at those little finger pockets that can easily pop that cap off. I wanted to go ahead and show you too how well the darkest color and the lightest color that I have go onto the paper, just because they do go on a little bit differently with each and every color. So here's the lightest color. It is called Antique White. There's that brush tip. Again, really even coat. You get really great lines with these. And there's that chisel tip. And also, again, really nice even coat of color. Now here is black. This is just basic black. And I'll go ahead and show you this brush tip. And again, really great even color with this black, which I was kind of surprised about. I wasn't expecting it, and it's really a pigmented color. There you can go ahead and see those lines that I can get, the flicks, I guess you want to call it, that I can get with that brush tip. And then I'll go ahead and put down a nice even coat of color with that chisel tip. Again, really great. Here is my swatch sheet. I went ahead and showed you a red, a blue, and then that's the Antique White there. Now, one thing with these markers I could not find on the Blick site was a swatch chart, and that's something I think is really important to have. So I went ahead and created one. I put it up on my blog for free. If you're interested, you can go over there and download the PDF. And then I also put a group of 6 little boxes on the bottom of it, just in case you find a really great blending group that you love. You can go ahead and fill that in with it, and then also label them so you just remember that, and that can be your go-to blending group for a certain color. I have one already for the greens, but I'm going to go ahead and show you now. I just take my markers and I just use the brush tip and I just fill in the corresponding rectangle with the color. Easy as can be. I try to only put one coat down as much as possible, just to see what one coat of color really looks like. Now again, with alcohol markers, you can always build up color. And these are some nice, pretty rich colors. So if you do only one coat, you're gonna get a good even coat with these. So that is a plus. And I'm not going to make you sit through this whole chart, but there you can see both pages of that chart, and that's all 48 colors in the 48 set. There you can see the bleed through on the back. Again, you're going to get that. These are alcohol markers. All alcohol markers bleed through. You want them to. And then the way I'm going to store these is just in a page protector. Now these I've already used quite a bit just because they are so great to have, and I just put them back to back in one pocket page protector just to keep them together. Now I'm not going to show you all of my coloring. I did color in all these stamped images for you, and there is another video up. It's called Blick Studio Brush Markers Review Part 2, which is just coloring. It's all the coloring of these images that I stamped out, and it's just music behind it, not me talking. So if you're interested in that, you can go watch that and see how these things really do with all the coloring. I did want to show you a few sections here of the coloring though. The first one is this lemon. This is an Avriel stamp. It's from the Very Good stamp set, and of course I've stamped in Memento ink. And I'm just going to go ahead and start first building up color is what I really want to do. I'm starting with my darkest first, and I work to my lightest. Now I'm going to start with my darkest first again, and I'm going to come back in and put another layer of all these colors down, and then I'm going to let it dry for a minute. That's something you really want to do with these markers. The only other alcohol markers I've tried are Spectrum Noir markers, the old one with the bullet nib. I got frustrated with them and I threw them out after like 2 uses, I think. So I don't know if this is a problem with all of markers, all alcohol markers, but the bleed on these is pretty good. I mean, you really want to let these dry and then come back and work on them if you're using a lot of ink on these. And I'll show you that coming up on one of these stamped images that I did. It did bleed. I didn't wait for it to dry, and that's just something to keep in mind with these. So there I just put down another coat of color. I'm going to go ahead and label these, and these pictures are also up on my blog with all the colors I used in case you're interested in that. Again, this entire review is over in written form on my blog. If you're curious in that too and you would rather do that, you can go over and read it, and for future reference also. Alright, I'm just going to go ahead and finish putting all these markers back in their little compartments. And then I will go ahead and I will show you the bleed through on this lemon. Now I did use quite a lot of color, so you're gonna see on the back it did have quite a bit of bleed through, but that's really what you want with alcohol markers because they blend in the fibers of the paper. Okay, so now here is where I messed up on this stamp. You can see I've already colored a few more, and now I'm going to move on to this crayon image. It's from the Alloway Stamps, their Learning Curve stamp set, and I'm going to be using some grays and blacks. Now these really seem to bleed on me, and also I just did not wait for these to dry. And I'm also going to show you these work really well with the tip to tip technique because I do have some gaps in colors right now. This is working really well for me while I still build up a collection, and it's just something to keep in mind. If you have just a few alcohol markers, this technique works really well to stretch your markers even further. So I'm going to go ahead and use this tip to tip technique, and I'm just using a gray with the black just to get a nice mid-tone there, and I'm just going to put down a layer of color on this, what is supposed to be the label. So I'm putting that down, and then I did not wait for it to dry, and I just kept layering too much color right here. I put down this black, and I really should have waited for it to dry, and it's going to bleed on me. You can see it already seeping out of the lines there. It gets really bad when I come in with this blue because then that starts to seep out too, and it just did not work for me. But if you let these dry in between layers, they don't bleed at all. And I also did it too with this pill bottle on the bottom. You could see there from the Lawn Fawn set, it bled on me too really bad. But again, wait for them to dry, you won't have a problem. So I'm moving on, and I wanted to show you that you can get a nice rainbow with these also. I chose all the primary colors, basic primary colors I could out of the set, and I just started going to town creating a rainbow with these. Now this isn't going to be the best blend because some of these colors don't want to blend. But you can get a nice rainbow with these. I thought it was pretty cool to try, so I wanted to show you that you could do it. But just blend back and forth in between colors, and you get a not great, not perfect, but a pretty decent blend with these colors that really don't blend all that well. So I'll just finish that up with the purple there, and I've got my little rainbow ready to go. I'll label those really quick, and again, if you want to see these, they are all over on my blog, and you can see also all the coloring on the second part of the review if you're interested in that. So here's all the coloring finished up, and there you can really see that bleed on that crayon, and then also on the pill bottle right there, you see that bleed. Again, my fault, didn't wait for it to dry. It is what it is. But I got a really nice blend on the peach. That was probably the one I was most happiest with, and the one I did last, I was getting used to the markers, making them work. Here you can see the nice close-up of all the images colored in. There's that peach. I think that's probably my favorite blend. And then there's that last one, the Lawn Fawn Get Well Soon. And it's just a matter of learning these markers. Now there are some cons to these. They are non-refillable and you can't replace the nibs. I emailed Dick Blick and they are looking into the possibility of it, but right now it is not an option. There's also a low color selection with these. 96 markers including the colorless blender, 24 of those are gray. I think that's excessive, but I'm not a true artist either. So maybe you do need 24 grays, and that's okay. Moving on, when these arrived straight out of the package, there was ink on the barrel of the marker and the cap. I'll show you a picture of it. This isn't a big deal to me. It cleans up very easily with alcohol, some rubbing alcohol, and a cotton swab. But again, I really just wanted you to know about it, and I'll show you a picture of it. And another thing is, I wish Dick Blick would offer different sets. And what I mean by that is more sets of 24 with different colors, more sets of 40, a second set of 48 with different colors, just to make it easier to complete your set. Here's a look at the barrel, how it arrived, and you can also see the ink inside the cap. This is not for me, this is how it arrived, but again, this cleans up easily enough with some alcohol, rubbing alcohol. Now the pros of these markers. Obviously the price point, I mean $2.69 a marker, even cheaper in sets. You really can't beat that. I got the set of 48 and I paid like $89. That's pretty awesome. Now these also are really readily available, easy to find. You go to their website, you're going to be able to buy them. You buy them now. You don't have to wait for stock. I thought they blended very nicely. Especially being a complete beginner like I was surprised at how well I could really use these markers. Now, the shape of the barrel was another plus for me. Again, I colored for an hour. My hand didn't cramp up. And also the number on the lid, being a video maker, is a very big plus for me. Also, I thought the brush tip was very nice. It came to a great point, and it made it easy to get into those itty bitty teeny tiny little Lawn Fawn stamps, which is something I use quite a bit, so another great plus for me. Now I know I skipped one, and that is the pro of it can be used with other alcohol markers, and that is huge. And that's because now I can go ahead and I can finish collecting these Dick Blick markers and I can use them. But another thing that's great is if I want to start adding in more Copic colors, if I want to add in the Twin Touch markers, any other markers, I can add these in and I can still use these with it. Now that being said, if I find myself using a certain color of this Dick Blick marker and I know I'm going to have to refill it very soon, of course these aren't refillable, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look for an alternative to buy that is refillable. So in the Twin Touch, in the Copic, I'll go ahead and replace that color with a similar color in one of those brands of markers. And again, if you want to replace these markers, $2.69 a pop. It's not going to break the bank to replace these markers. So that is my plan. I will probably finish out my collection of these markers. Aside from the Colorless Splendor, I will buy a refillable one of that, just because I don't see the point in buying one that you can't refill right now. And I also contacted Dick Blick. These markers do come with 2.5 to 2.7 grams of ink in them, which is pretty comparable for other alcohol markers like them. They pretty much all come with that amount of ink. So these are going to run out about as fast as any other one, which if you've done any research, you know they can last for a very long time. With all that being said, I would completely recommend these markers as of right now. I've been using them for about 2 to 3 weeks and I love them. I am so glad that I bought them and I started with them. Being able to buy a set of 48 all at once, I feel like I have enough markers to complete a scene on a card, and they don't have to lay in wait to go and buy more. So I was able to buy a set of 48 that I can use right now, no waiting. Alright guys, thank you so much for sticking with me through this very long video. And if you have any questions, you can leave them for me here in the comments, or you can leave them over at my blog. You can shoot me an email from there, or you can catch me on Instagram and leave me a comment there, and I will answer as soon as possible. So I hope you enjoyed this review, and I really hope you found it helpful and insightful, and that you can make smart buying purchases with these markers. So if you want to go ahead and check out much more information, you can head over to my blog post about these markers, and it also has a written review if you want to check that out. The link is in the description box below. And if you want to check out these markers in action, you can head over to the second part of this review and watch them be used for coloring all those stamps in. The link is also in the description box below, and I will also leave a link in the right hand corner that you can click on. Thank you guys so much for staying with me this long, and happy crafting.